petitioners from 1500s. There's many human rights groups supporting it. There's even support, not even, I should say, there's support from the Central Conference of American Rabbis, which is the largest group of Jewish clergy in the world, Reform rabbis. And they were quite astonished. They first thanked Jerusalem for offering an alternative location, and they then said, cemeteries are sacred ground in our Jewish tradition. We would protest in the strongest terms, not only the desecration, but any removal of a Jewish cemetery, no matter what the purpose. Therefore, it is self-evident that we must oppose the removal of another people's sacred battleground, no matter how worthy the purpose. So there's a lot of support for the petition. And what did we request in the petition? We requested really 4 things. They're on the site. They're in the petition you can all sign. We requested that they stop the building and the excavation. I should say, although it's hard to see over that fence, when you can get up on a little hill and occasionally when a door opens, you can look in and see what's going on. And what you see, I mean, the idea that this was once a cemetery is astonishing. Because it's not like pick and axes. These are huge bulldozers and earth-moving machines that are just devastating the ground. I mean, destroying it underneath. And that's what you can see. So we request that stop. We request that there be revealed what happened to the 250 graves that were excavated. I mean, were they just, sometimes they were buried at the edge of the site. Buried by whom? Thrown into a hole? What was done with them? We don't know. Certainly the Muslim authorities never know that. So we want that. Third, we want those bones, we want to be able to rebury those. The Muslim authorities should have the right to rebury those bones in the cemetery, and we want the cemetery protected. We don't want the Simon Wiesenthal Center built. We want it protected, and we want all of the documents about what happened. Pretty straightforward. Stop it, reveal what happened, rebury it, and protect what's there. 4 clear demands. And as I said, it seems like, to be honest, it seems like a no-brainer to be coming in from almost any direction, considering there's alternate sites. But there's a lot else going on. You might ask, what's the legal basis for the petition? Well, some of it Rashid mentioned, which are a series of UN resolutions, the petition resolution and others, that guarantee that religious sites are not to be impaired and they're to be preserved. There's also an Israeli antiquities law, interestingly enough, from 1967 that supposedly protects holy places. But what's interesting about the Israeli antiquities law, and it's supposed to protect all holy places, Muslim, Christian, and Jewish. Of the 137 that may be going up now, I think it's more, of the 137 sites protected and for which regulations have been issued, every single one is a Jewish Israeli site. There's not been one Muslim site, not one Christian site protected, and that remains the fact to this day. The rapporteur in an earlier case in the UN basically said there's a pattern of disregard for Muslim and Christian sites. And the desecration of Mamilla is part of that pattern. Interestingly, the U.S., giving a Department of State report on religious freedom in 2009, said Israel only issues regulations for Jewish sites. Non-Jewish holy sites do not enjoy protection. So the Israeli antiquities law is, again, remaining only. What are the international law violations? Syria, resolutions, there's a series of laws, but there's also the various treaties. There's the UNESCO Heritage Convention, which protects areas including archaeological sites, aesthetic sites, anthropological sites, the various sets of human rights treaties, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. They in general, protect the right to religion, culture, family. There's the right to manifest your religious beliefs. The disinterment and not consulting Muslims violates that. The right to freedom from discrimination, that's obvious. Muslim cemeteries are being discriminated against. the right to family and culture, the burial of the dead as a cultural and religious right. And what's interesting when you read this stuff, it's considered a violation not only of the rights of Muslims, it's considered a violation of all faiths when you do that to a cemetery. And it's considered really, Mamilla is considered the patrimony of all humanity. So it's not just Rashid's ancestors, it's your ancestors, it's all of us. And I think the petition is obviously a very strong ground, and the facts are, to put it mildly, completely compelling. And the question is, in my mind, when we started this, I thought, well, we should win this. This seems like one we can win. And I still think that's the case, because I think the rhetoric on the other side is so off the wall and so outrageous. And what's happening here is it's not just that they're taking the cemetery, but they're putting a center of tolerance on the cemetery that I find utterly astounding. So I can only close by really asking everybody here to get active in this campaign. Go to those two sites, MamillaCampaign.org, Center for CCRJustice.org. Look at these petitions. Make up your mind about it. But I have to tell you, this one, hopefully we want to be talking to you next year again about our continuing fight, and we'll have ended the efforts to desecrate and destroy the Mamilla Cemetery. Thank you.
We're going to take questions now. I think we'll take them in batches of 2 or 3 and have the speaker family agree to answer them. I actually am going to take moderator's privilege and ask the first question to Mr. Ratner. I'm a student in the Human Rights Clinic at the law school, and something that we're constantly wrestling with is the lack of binding authority that something like this petition will have once, even if it succeeds. What's the plan thereafter? If this campaign is successful, Israel doesn't have the most shining record with regard to respecting UN demands. So what's next?
This is both a legal question and a political question. The legal question is, it's not binding in the sense that you can't enforce. I consider it binding in the sense that it becomes the law, just like, it actually is the law. Just like when the Israeli International Court of Justice at The Hague said the wall is encroaching on occupied territories and that's illegal. There's no enforcement of that, but that is actually the law. So that's very critical, and law is a tool to be used to stop this kind of encroachment. Now, as I said, there is a way to do this, to go to the General Assembly, get to the Security Council, but that is certainly from a political point of view not a very not a very good chance of that happening. Not Rashid has any comments.
Well, it's also, as you said, a political issue. And this is not just an action of the Israeli state. This is an action of an American institution, which is a 501c3. It's a tax-deductible, charitable organization, which is using tax-paid, tax-free dollars in effect to carry out actions that are violations of law. And I think it's an organization that's probably susceptible to public opinion like any organization in this country. And so if the people on the board of the Simon Wiesenthal Center realize, if the people who contribute to the center realize, if the people who run the center realize, that this is something that is outrageous and unacceptable to a whole number of people, that might well force them to desist. The building was originally designed by Frank Gehry, the famous LA-based architect. He has withdrawn, and he has publicly stated that he did this for reasons that had nothing to do with politics. That is in fact not the case. The storm that was already raging, even before we actually put our petition together, is actually probably the main reason that Gehry withdrew. And that's an indication of the impact that public opinion can have. So I don't know where it's going to go in terms of the nation's process. But I think that the more weight we can put behind this, just the facts. They are building a museum of tolerance on the oldest Muslim cemetery in Jerusalem. You repeat that enough times, and it should stop them. If not the Israeli government, which is